Alright, I didn't want to show you. Then Digi, Digi, sometimes Digan, some the Digi, and Digi to be Dondalia, and then Jelagatan, Digan the Jetu, somebody, and Data Chago Mares. The names are Cedilia and Digi to be done, the Tungan to war the Inea, and the Zodi, and Gewachima, and Jig. Tarbada Tamjikim Govan Toya, and Gema Gewachima, Hadami Govan, Toyaki, and Dele, Gilamlia, Yamna Jawore, Bezuchores, the Negi, and the Givishi and Dinjidushin and Bezuchores, Sosugu, Dajiki, Luida Lonju Shazan, the Bezuchi Dushin, Jawores, and the Nezadang Zugi, the Negi Dadang Zugi, Ludi, Danju, Ludi, Chazan, that it in Delia, and the Nisi Beijing Yaman Jabana. 제 투역이 된 개발진의 레디어레스 제나다 다들 맞아봐나 근데 마음바나 야된 되는지 도구연하면나 된대요 말이시자 그디 왠지 하고요 말이에스 되네서 다들 도스진이 제와 계시물에서 안디링 안도 디쇼 디고스 쉬어와.
Good evening. So this morning we spoke again looking at how if we live this life focused solely on the attainment of happiness of this life and comforts of this life, then achieving this will be the sole focus of our activities and our mental energy. And whilst we do need to sustain this life, if our sole focus is the happiness of this one life, then there will be no thought to our future lives, which is an expanse of time far greater than this one mere life. So we need to therefore reflect on this, adjust our priorities and our values, and thereby, with the strength of mind, turn towards our Lama, seeking guidance and instruction through his teachings on how to utilize what remains of this life well, because, as we saw in the next verse, this human rebirth we've achieved is a remarkable basis for spiritual development. But it's very difficult to find, and it's impermanent. It is declining. It will come to an end. And therefore, whatever remains of this opportunity, we need to apply ourselves, utilize as well as we can.
The Chinata de Carson said that the Nigi, Chizadini Zadanga, the Tanju Miludi, Yakawati in the Tupuri said, she had to Nar the Tikni Lara, Nar Panche, Dume Ngado, Tala, Tachi Geni Bolemba said, Chizanyama, the one and the Tanju Militobio Besson, Tobiores, Yina, Di Tindelia, Nanzugi, and that said Digi, and Sedi. Dondala Tunkin Juyadang, and Nanzuki Tiki Juyadang, and Chiki Dunga Sayagi, Tedigi Dondala Chichi Madom, Tabada Tamji Kimbo Gobon Toyaki, Lamliang, Nyamlin Geo Maris, Majebaje, and the Dumedu Tavares, Dumengado Tal City, Denegi, and Duchine, Tabada Tamji Kimbo Gobon Toyaki, Lamla, Lobsang Majebaje, Duchine, Dusuti, Zovares, Tabada Tamji Kimbo Lamla, Lobsang Jayana. Digi mutation that it was Yagi Rogorwa, Chizan di Dromin was or Chizan Arpanji, Dumengado Tas. Diniza da Jigan Nibolimba Sasa, that Nyama Jade Sasares, Nyama Sasaraja Sukia Mares, in that didn't down as the Danju Milu in top the body, go up Yudikabla, and didn't ever to Injim Minji, and the J or the Tabata Tamji Kimbo Gomatoya, the Lamlia, and Besuchi Jando Shawore.
This morning we looked at the first two lines of the fifth verse, and the verse concludes with the two lines. Up to now, this life of yours has passed purposelessly. Please, from now on, by all means, achieve the very essence of its potential. So up to this point in our life, our focus has either been solely or primarily on achieving happiness in this one life and experiencing pleasures and comforts of this one life. And there's been almost no thought if we compare these two focuses, there's been almost no thought to the lives beyond this, let alone liberation and enlightenment. And if we are, to the extent that we've recognized the importance of transforming our priorities, then when we look at how we have lived this life thus far, we can see that actually, if we had applied ourselves over these many years to cultivating the path, gathering knowledge on the Dharma and integrating it, applying it to ourselves, if we had done this over these many years to this point, I'd be in a radically different position. I'd be likely to be not only quite learned, but my mind radically transformed. This is a good recognition to come to, and should one come to that, thereafter, one must also move forward. Let the past be the past decisions, leave them where they are. There's no need for remorse. Now rather, focus on our future. Now is the time for what remains of this life to turn the direction that we are going in with a focus, with an outlook that is uplifted beyond the short, narrow confines of this one life, but with a focus that is raised far broader than the horizons of today, tomorrow, and next year. Now is the time then to live this life differently.
Then the one magic. City Java Kese ta Chishun Mando Madon were Dudiring ne Mabena, so Namka Mishi Zunjums.
Moving to the 6th verse. Scorning the worldly activities of this life, abandon immediately any state of procrastination. If you do not exert yourself on this very day, not knowing when this life will cease, will you ever apply joy and effort?
City Java Kidu Sen and Chishu Nando Madonwa, Dudiring ne Mabena, and Gedishing Eva Yomarasete, Cangelo Dondala, City Java Kidu in the Sidanganzo, Carson, City, Chicken, Odi Church, Joda, Danga di Lega, the Dilega di Lega Sagumindus, Sata, Odajic, Jimichi, Tugo, Lega di Joe, Chichi, Cheo said, the Nigel Lega di Goragumindus, and Jeza, that Gemadi watching, Saji, on Dus Chenanzuge, Dus Ladu Gorova, the Neza, City Java Kidu Sune said, that the Nigi Chick Church, Yamnichi, Gorobche Radu. Sedigi Jawaru Chigubene, the Nerapshache, near a Geshe, and trading him the Chegores. Jezada, the Majabana, Nilaga the Sarge, Jama Jigins in Dus Part Yang Shabaina, the Chishu and Ando Matoma, the Yang Shabaina, and the harder in Yangayo. That's the Lagasadi, Chichi Geshe, Yaya doing what is just a dinner. The Manzuki, Liagarushina, and the Chigit part Chedu set this Samsha, Nelia, Geshe, Janzuki, then Yamnan Yamnacheda, DJ, why the Geshe, Dushin Chegor, Essage, or the 60 needed to Shigor. Needed, down body never needed.
Looking at the first two lines, scorning the worldly activities of this life, abandon immediately any state of procrastination. We see then how this verse builds on what we've been looking at in the previous couple of verses. Through looking at how we've lived our life, at what we prioritize, we come to value the Dharma more. But as mentioned this morning, there is still a danger that when one comes to value the Dharma, one will still procrastinate, push it aside, because life is busy. Life is busy. We have so many responsibilities. We have commitments to our family. We have social commitments. We have our work projects. So many things that are drawing us, pulling us in direction after direction that we are habituated to following. and others perhaps expect us to follow, to be there. So we are drawn in many directions. So even though that now we have come to realize the great importance of cultivating the Dharma within us so as to prepare for lives to come and to progress towards enlightenment and liberation, we face the potential danger of procrastination, of when an opportunity comes to engage in the Dharma, to attend retreats, receive teachings, to do a daily meditation practice. It's very easy to follow our habituation, to all our responsibilities that have consumed our life to this point.
직마 다샤샤로와 어디나시 어다디 내가지 어다디 내가디데 지게 가야마니엘이 개체등아 최주야다 디냠는게디 개체르지 디젤이 디나 젤 제초를 삼죠 어두스제는 삼다 케두세시데 체디게 자와디 케두세제네 어두스제는 냠는제고레사시 디시도.
This process of cultivating wisdom so as to reprioritize what we value, what we strive to do is reflected here, scorning the worldly activities of this life. This word scorning represents the attitude one looks to develop. What has consumed our mental activities and our time thus far holds such activities in contempt, not wanting to let our life be consumed in this way any further. So there is, in this attitude, is one of having contempt or scorning such activities, viewing them with contempt, walking away from them, leaving them aside. This is the attitude one wants to develop so as to rebalance and reprioritize.
네, 저기 뒤로와다 내가 직담 직 뒤수질이야 아니 내가 더 경험을 계신 다들이야 직 참례 용어로 봐. 제자들 참여도 디님들 디 뒤수질 내가 열어 봐다. 내가 열어 직래는 내가 직제고야 내가 열어 아니 아직 열어 이내 개체의 어디지 내가도 파스 주제 안다데 디 니쪽에 참 검자다 디 개체를 삼제 두시변의 내가도 파 충충을 제제 안 체디 내가 충충을 파지니 샤제 아니 개체의 다들 냠는지야디 최 냠는지 개체 지제 제거하지 디스티스월 케르스 시에사데 베디나진 메디르와데 케르스엔 두 제거를 해야 돼.
And I think here it's also important for everyone here, as well as those watching at home, to recognize that each of you have busy lives. You could be doing many, many other things right now. You all have long to-do lists. But you have recognized the need to come here, or to watch this presentation, and to attend the meditations and integrate these teachings that have been received, because you have seen their value, their importance. It's not that, I don't think there's a single one of you who would otherwise be sitting at home bored, wondering how they can pass their time. Lives are busy. But you've adjusted your priorities, you've put aside your responsibilities for now, so that you could gather here, receive these teachings, and apply yourself in meditation. So here, you're already seeing an outcome of changing one's values.
근데 안두스네 제거바데 가르엘람나 뒤 다든 마제바 이나서다 뒤 디링이네 마베나 소 남가 미셰 준주 좀 세데 지자다 최체에 고급 여바데 안에 레가디 게셰제 최 마제바는 냠네 마제바나 아니 게디싱 해봐요 말와스 지자 데네자 먼저 뒤 디링이네 마베나스 다데네 베수체 주두체 냠 마제바나 아니 소 남가 아니 미시에스 그디 시기는 가서 하고 거야 말아왔어. 제가 되네자 안디링 디마제바제 안상 제마제와 제마시 샤샤바네 안제로 제고 말아제 시소바네 용침보라로 왔어. 디 냠는 제디 세디자 말에 개와 치마다 타바 탐제키베 치마 고방토비기 규케바전 차고를 제자디 개침보레스. 제가 세디기 레가로 춘주로 직직 레가 지기 제와 마야 좀 제야 말아봐 제 시소문는데 용침보스가 말해서 올 되네자 디링이네 마베나 소 남가 미시베 아니 디링이야 맞전을 좀 제네베 장고레스.
The verse concludes, if you do not exert yourself from this very day, not knowing when this life will cease, will you ever apply joy and effort? Here, the author Gendün Gyatso is saying to us, having recognized thus far the importance of the Dharma and the importance of applying oneself right now, if you do not do so now, if you do not transform your priorities from right now, when will you do so? Because the list of activities never ends. We know this from our own experience. But what is going to end is the opportunity that this life presents. Our death is certain. Our time of death is completely unknown. There is this shadow over our life that we need to recognize. This lifespan, or this view that sees such an expanse of time before us, is an illusion. This opportunity we have now, that is so rare and precious, is ending. And if the time of when the time of our life ends, if we have not accomplished the Dharma, but have recognized its great importance, regret will come at this lost opportunity. On the other hand, whenever our life comes, end of our life comes, whatever urgent activities are waiting on our to-do list, they won't be completed, and not much fault will come from that. So reflect on this, so as to generate a determination that right now is the time that I need to transform my priorities and what I value.
아나 디 인간적인 디다한테 제나 디지 쇼베 셰베 직제디게 된다 지바로 차기도 와 된다라 가슴 디린 쇼베 셰다 디 지수에 가르순 거라서네 아줄이야 지게 세디기 자월라 짱짱 제드네 교행 가르 연구도 지사다 개와치마 아니 세디다 치마니 제바나 안 띵이 대와터 탈바 탐지 캠바스에 간에서 두고 그래 지도 안에 간에서 요래 규 간에서 지내 장고그래 해야돼. 제가 디 개위신인 땡고그래 해야다. 안다 간에서 장고를 개디 장고래라네 다대내게 장고그래 해야다. 안다 체디기 자와 대당 되니기 최지에 고급일이 다 가가 거기 계체 지고래서는 제가 체디기 자와 들래 말아서 체 개와치마 탈바다 탐지기마 토야기 안데 최 냠는 제 냠는지디 계체 지고래스 제지고래스 이제 그비 김장 가르라나 가르전에 지고래라나 제가 세디기 자와디 충주 제 말아봐 시소나 용가야 말했어 용치모 말했어 제가 먼저 개와치마 탈바다 탐제키베 남님네 제 고급지 말아지 시소바이나 용치모라고 그랬어 제가 먼저 개왕아마에 밀리 먹고 토 얘기래 이내가 디텐들이야 탈바다 탐제키베 남님네 마치바자 너는 가서 눈 코르투고 그랬어 제가 때 디링 고급 유디가블 디제고구도 선배게다 삼노당나 제바제 삼노당나게 최제고비 김생 간스 제고비 김생 가레스 제나 간스 제고래 된 수절에 년고를 해야지 아니 게디 제고를 해야 되게 되니게 다 제바제다 삼노당나 시고 다딘마 다디데.
The fifth and sixth verses have built on each other. There's a very similar message within them, and that is we're being urged to turn away from being focused solely on attaining and enjoying the pleasures of this life. Because as long as one stays focused solely on attaining the happiness of this life, one will not think beyond this life. One's boundaries of one's outlook will be confined to this mere life. And this is really quite sad, because we limit our potential. It's as if we intentionally are restricting ourselves. When we take the message of these verses and we lift our outlook to lives beyond this, just like this particular life has followed so many others, we see this expanse of time. And whilst now we are enjoying the fruits of endeavors in the past life to ensure future lives have even greater favorable circumstances, we need to apply ourselves now. And in particular, accumulating the causes that will lead to the attainment of liberation and enlightenment. And there we think about the great benefit for oneself and others as we spiritually develop our own growing happiness and our benefit, and be able to be of ever greater benefit to others. And this life we have is so short. You hear this from many people as they age, how the time has passed. For us, we are at varying stages of this lifespan. We do not know what remains before us, but it's likely to be far less than we would hope for. So therefore, whatever it is that remains, we must utilize well. What's past is past. But if this remaining period we utilize well, then this life will we can pass from this life with more confidence. Here in these verses and throughout this text, and what one will continue, is I'm presenting you many reasons to use in your meditation. Because it's through using reasoning and thinking that one gains conviction, becomes convinced of something, rather than just accepting it. And conviction is required because a mind that is convinced is a strong mind, powerful mind. And that is what we need to turn away from the habitual tendencies that cause us to focus on this life's pleasures, to prioritize this life's pleasures, and have many justifiable reasons arise in our mind which we grasp at as being worthy, and we push the Dharma aside. So therefore in the meditations, one needs to use reasons so as to give rise to conviction.
지사단 냠는 제디 조디 가르래라는 가서 가르 고고래 시대 당아서 그디네 띵이 대화디 고고래 동안 균이 매바체 아니 그디네 띵이 대화세도 디 타르바세다 지사 나 타르바세 타르바델라야 아니 타르바 쌈다 아니 지게 산제 고방세디 아니 제거로 지사단 저 산제 고방 돕나 뇽모 바샤다 제바 방시 균 탐제 세제 뇽모 바샤다 제바 방네 방바이나 나 산제 고방세데 토고래 지선다 뇽모 바샤다 제바 방마토베네 뇽모 사본나 제바 방제 바샤마 방네 사본나 제바 방바이나 아니 타르바세 토브레 데니 띵이 대와 토브레 데니 델야 아니 둥아 자오디네 야제 유네 매바 대와니 대와 짠냐래 지선다 맞아 단다라 뇽모바 빵비게 빵비 곡된세다 타르바세 디토고 거래가서 디토고 거래제래.
Thus far, the encouragement has been to turn one's mind to the Dharma, reprioritize in this way. So then we need to look at what is it that we need to practice, what is it that we need to train our mind in. So first one sets as an objective, and that is the goal of lasting, stable happiness, a state of deep inner peace that is never disturbed. And this is attained with attainment of either mere liberation or enlightenment. Mere liberation is where the afflictions, together with their seeds, have been completely eradicated. So when the seeds of the afflictions are also eradicated, nothing can ripen into an affliction. And therefore, the state of cessation is a state of lasting peace that can never be disturbed by the ripening of an affliction, because all suffering has ceased, and because there are no seeds left, seeds of the imprints, there is no affliction to cause suffering that can ripen. That is the state of liberation, and it's a state of lasting, stable happiness. But what still remains to be eradicated are the stains or the imprints of the afflictions. They do not cause afflictions nor suffering, but they do impede one's ability to be of benefit. So therefore, the greatest goal beyond mere liberation is that of full enlightenment. And that is achieved through the eradication of the imprints.
semchen tamje rang na shin ngarang dunga midyoba dunga tamjilo droko ba na shin rang semchen taja jikbare dewa dyoba dunga midyoba jikbare dene za ta ngarang jikbu ma semchen tamje dunga le droko dos chesa semchen tamje dunga nyomoba sabona jebadel pangpege taba topu dos chesa di za semchen tamje denige dunga jawa da nyomo tawya nyomo pangpege tarpa tobyadi 탑시데 네 지기 콘솔레 네 로브 네 지기스 진짜 네 semja 탐제 안슨야 탈바다 탐지 김에 상여고 발로 끄고 있어 디엔장이 semja 탐제기 된다래 상여고 봐 토바 지긴 셈비게 상여고 봐 토바 지긴 세비 군노디 당보 군노디래다 니 군노 찍디래 나 군노 찍디라 네 가리용 거라서는 니 semja 탐제기 된다 제데 빼깔래 하고래 나다 나랑 semja 탐지기 된다데 제투 사람한테 다 나랑 찍부 엘링이라 나랑 찍부 아니 코르베 동아 타다 빵비 빵바 타르바세 토부도 디 토벌 지기 디 톱 사회 제라 안 제라 아니 semja 탐지로 로고 지내지나 지기 와선베 다 당보 나랑 아니 코르베 동아 타다래 저희에게 타르바세 토부도 sem비 토벌 지기 sem비 군노세 다 군노디 이용고래 지사다 군노니 내내 당보디 semja 탐지게 된다라 하는 게 상지고방 토벌 지긴 세배선 군노디다 맞아요 상지고방 토비기 토비치도 군노세 군노디 자체와래 니 돈에 제베나 아니 연대 파연 채와래 나보다 당한 저기 녀모뭐 빵배 타르바 토부 sem비 군노 삼다다라 이용고래 군노 이용고다
What determines whether virtuous activity becomes a cause to lead to liberation or enlightenment is not the activity itself, but the motivating mind, the intention. So therefore, there are two different motivations because there are two different goals. So there's the motivation that leads to mere liberation, which is for myself. I'm going to strive for myself. I need to be freed of suffering. This is my determination. I've come to recognize how pervasive suffering is in samsara. I have to gain freedom for myself, first and foremost. Thereafter, I will work for others. But myself, right now. So this is an incredibly powerful mind, but focused on liberating oneself alone. The second motivation has as its goal enlightenment, and this motivation itself is called bodhicitta. Its starting point is the same as the motivation for liberation. It's a reflection that suffering, samsara is pervaded by suffering. And until the origins of suffering, the afflictions and their seeds are eradicated, I will continue to suffer. I can't take this anymore. It's only causing me pain. There's no lasting happiness in any type of rebirth, nowhere if I look can I find any peace. I have to gain freedom from samsara. There is no peace here. So to this point, the two motivations are the same. But thereafter, the practitioner shifts their attention, recognizing that the position they are in is no different from all around them, from all sentient beings, in that they, like me, want happiness. Happiness that is freed from any pain or misery entirely. And they, like me though, are bound by their afflictions and their seeds, causing suffering upon suffering. I cannot only strive for myself. This is not right. I need to work for others. I will therefore set their welfare as my goal, and I will strive to attain liberation from their afflictions and their seeds, as well as their imprints, so that I can become a Buddha, the most skilled of guides, and help others. So this then is the far vaster motivation of bodhicitta, because the goal is all sentient beings, not merely one, and therefore far more merit is accumulated with such a motivation.
Dine zadang an zugi dine zadang an zu chue nyamne chesu da tarpa tobi chirdu sidu dang an zugi da korwe nyomoba tabnje pangbege da soso dang an zugi di kunoni di soso damga cheru wa dang an zugi soso ingtop cheru china semjen tamjege donda sanyoko ba toba jigese da semjen tamjege donda chetu samara sambaina da soso rang korwe dungal joje tarpasa topgudo sembe samlodi 장고 그래서 다 dondalang an zugi kunoni dinyi di 장고 그래서 dang an zu chue nyamne che sayadi nabo korwe dunga tadale pangbege da semjen tamjege dondaala korwe dunga nyomo bacha jeba pangbe sanyoko ba toba jigi sembe samlodi di yane yang 당고 그래서 di ba 장고 그래서 다 dingo 공부 당고 그래서 다 semjen 탐지기 돈다 삼다마 투베나 다 소소나랑 콜위 둥아 타다랭아 나랑 콜위 둥아 타다 델레 드웨 타르바세 톱고도 sembe게 다 토버 지기 sembe 삼로데 야네 양도 장고 그래서지 다조 최 냠는제고 조디디 냠는제게 다 디소야 장고 그래서 디 삼도 야네 양도 땅고 그래서 그래.
So of the two motivations, the one, that of bodhicitta, is far more powerful because it has as its object all beings. This is the motivation to strive for, because the benefit that comes from it for self and others is vastly superior. And the attainment of such a goal is achievable for all of us. The starting point is to have come to recognize the sufferings of samsara in relation to oneself and thereby given rise to determination to gain freedom from our afflictions and their seeds. Because it's through gaining freedom from afflictions that we eradicate, we destroy our own samsara, our individual samsara. Recognizing this, that's the crucial starting point. Then, indispensably, we turn our attention to others, recognizing they are no different from ourselves in both wanting freedom from suffering and suffering for the same reasons. But they have not met the unmistaken path and therefore are lost in darkness. They require guides who can work with them perfectly in accordance with their personalities. So therefore, I'm going to strive to destroy my own samsara, the afflictions and their seeds, so that I can become a Buddha, the perfect guide, and be of great benefit to others. This then is a motivation called bodhicitta, or in English, the mind of enlightenment, the mind that is striving, set on achieving enlightenment. And this meditation that leads to the generation of bodhicitta is indispensable. It's of primary importance. and needs to therefore be cultivated repeatedly over a sustained period.
데니게라 군노 디케제 안다 가르쳐고래 람나 다 군노 데니스 여바점 베능한족이 사지질로 조고도 셈베 담보 군노도 고고라 사지델로 조고도 셈베 군노메나 사지로 조에게 탑시고나 지금 봐봐 저 사지로 조고도 셈베 군노 지여바나 안델야 룸바델로 조고 셈베 군노에네 데 룸바델로 조야리아 안데 위 가소레 튕긴 가라가라 고고래 간다간다 내가 지게 조야리아 내가 가라가라 지고래 세비직 자와지야 쇼르바다 어디 나시 다 당보 데니게 셈자타미 상요고마 토고도 스베기 돈여기 듬바디 레야도 듬바디 안데가라 다 상요고마 토야들라 가르쳐고래 람나 데네 진비에 냠는 제 수련 냠는 수비에 냠는 준련 냠는 삼대 냠는 셰랍 냠는 조디 다디 죽디 군노 장주 셈 군내라데 냠는 제디 디죽디 차고래 파션 쪽이 냠는 세르와
One has, therefore, as a goal, Buddhahood. And just like in our own life, we need to have a motivation to travel, to get up and go somewhere. And depending on the strength of that motivation, we'll either prepare well or not. If our motivation's weak, we're not even going to think about it. But if our motivation is strong, I definitely want to go there, we'll have interest, and therefore we'll prepare well. We will investigate what is needed, how to attain it, etc., so that the journey is successful and we arrive at this destination we really want to go to. So too with the destination of Buddhahood. To achieve such a great destination, a tremendous number of causes need to be accumulated. These are, in brief, the 6 perfections: generosity, ethical restraint, patience, joyous perseverance, concentration, and wisdom.
디나시 다 소소 지부 심지어 탐지에 삼마다 소소 하나다 거기 동을을 탈바 톱구도 셈비 군노지 디군노 군노지 다디 탈바 토여야 된다 내가 가른 냠는 제야를 지바래 진비에 냠는 추정년의 수변년의 준정년의 삼대년 셰라 냠는 숨디 디죽대 제고 버려.
Of those 2 motivations for the 2 differing destinations, those who have as their goal mere liberation, the destruction of their own samsara first and foremost, and that is their goal, they engage in those same six practices. They're not called perfections, but the same 6 practices of generosity, ethical restraint, patience, joyous perseverance, concentration, and wisdom.
다디나서 나네 냠는 소디 가르쳐고는 시라기 냠레세데 차고 시라기 냠레 인딜이야 안 띵인진 줍시네 주야다 안데 다음에 봐도 시랍세데 다음에 봐도 시랍세데 그래서는 녀모바 빠야게 녀보 소디 다음에 봐도 시랍 차고래 그래서 다음에 봐도 시랍 디콘바데 때네 방고래 디콘바데야 또 봐진이 주고 말데 띵이진 안에 실라 송제기 다음에 봐도 실라 송제기 되고 뭐 실라 송제 세 토발라 띵이진 신내세 주고 거래 신내 토고 거라스.
Of those 6 practices, for both types of practitioners, they have whilst they do and have to practice all 6, the 2 of greatest importance are the final 2, wisdom and concentration. And this is because the cause that keeps us bound in samsara are our own afflictions. The chains that keep us bound are our own consciousnesses, these afflictions. Their antidote, what will destroy them together with their seeds, is the wisdom realizing selflessness, or the wisdom realizing emptiness. This is what will destroy those afflictions. But for our realization of selflessness to have sufficient strength, it needs to come with an incredibly, or based on an incredibly powerful mind, namely the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. So therefore, of those 6 practices, those striving for liberation or enlightenment, the primary practices are concentration and wisdom, or training the mind primarily, concentration and wisdom.
semchen tamji sanyo koba toba chiwi sebi kulno di kieche kulno di tuan dambo karache nyamne chigora sene jimbe nyamne chigore jimbe nyamne ladada jimbe nyamne sida karare lamna nga zuge ngarangi lu dan longje dan kare inaya chasan shenliya tigin sebi shenliya shengi dunga seya dan shengi digi tubile pa tangi sebi samlodi tangi sebi samlo dus chene yana tangchi changu korda di 지단 디 삼로디에다 진비 냠는 지에 lab도다 디 고미야다 디 삼로나나 디 야네 야도 삼다 고미야 소소기 류 롱주 가리나 셴레 판도 집에는 셴레야 치 땅기 소소기 류 롱주 게자 가리베네 야 권조 상jel이야 라마다 상jel이야 푸기 삼비 데네게 삼디 삼로디 땅고 고르다 하지
All these trainings require powerful motivation. We mentioned the supreme motivation is that of bodhicitta, the mind determined to attain Buddhahood. So, having generated that, then one engages in these 6 meditations. So generosity is defined as the wish to give. So from that first word, the wish, we can see that the practice of generosity, the training of generosity, is mental. It is a wish to give, an aspiration to give. And what does one give in this meditation? Through having generated bodhicitta, the wish to become a Buddha for the sake of others, that motivation ensures that the way we relate to everything that we possess, maybe we could say everything that we have some control over, is that we would see this as having the function of being to serve others, to benefit others. And therefore, I give it all to others. My resources, my skills and material resources, my body, my virtue, all I offer to others for the purpose of aiding them, helping them. Also, I offer it all to the 3 jewels and to the Lama. Everything we give like this. So this is the practice of generosity, the training in generosity. And again, I emphasize, it's the wish to give. So this is a mental training.
On dini di samlo di nganzo lo ko hedi di samlo yakure di ya chugombe tangu re chere. Desa da samlo di docho garesene sena sedire. Desa sosoli yebi 직네 여바이나 샬리아 로제 투비야기 니버리나 아다지기메 세디 세나 여다 세나디 나주 소소 세나저 소소의 베제 담마도 샬리아 베제 담마도 바디니시 제산 세나 세디 묘모베릭데 디메바 쇠고 오라나서 제산디 세나디 메바 쇠발라 나줄이야 직 소소게 나랑 고고 샬리 지기메스 비 당기메스 베 삼로 세나디 메바 쇠야라 디 독초 삼로 가르다서 샬라 당긴 셈베 삼로 공부 디니 독초래 제산 지나데 세나 제반에 진비 냠는 리고 말에 진비 냠는 데스 땡기 류롱저 가르나 샬라 당기 샬라 제긴 로 지긴 삼비 삼로디 두스타베나 소수게 세나 담진디 메바 체고래.
This mind of generosity is a virtuous mind. It's important to cultivate. It's an expression of our closeness, the closeness we feel with others and the connection we feel with others. The opposite mind to generosity is an affliction of miserliness. To the extent that one is miserly, one cannot sincerely be generous. One may give something, but one would do so reluctantly. Miserliness is an attitude. Generosity is the wish to give, to benefit, to serve. Miserliness is an attitude of me first. It's completely contrary to generosity. Perhaps if one's miserliness is a little weaker, it will still be expressed as me first, and maybe, if I have an abundance, others. This is very far from an attitude of wanting to help others gain freedom from pain and misery. Therefore, we have to destroy this affliction of miserliness, and we do so through cultivating the directly opposite mind of generosity, the wish to serve others, to benefit others.
동의 선바지 도스체네 장저 소소리 동의 선바지 여바이나 안 디기 안 소소리야 튕긴 셴리야 안지 강아세야단 디기 주비에 로체 투비에 여바이나 아니 누바 여바나 로치고래 제가 로치고 변한 저게 칼라알마선데 제거야지 누바여나 안 미테와서들 안 제투그로와 제가 아니 시행이 돈에 있네 로버제 고기네 제투그로와 제가 되니게 사 동의 선바메나 제가 누구 여바이나 제투고 말에 디레 찍디레 다 찍니 금전 찌디 가르랍나 아서 세나시게 제보디기 마음바나 깨워다 마음바나 디기 제보들 빼 아주 변조 끼고리고 그래지래 튕긴 공부야라고 그래서 그래서 당한 저기 동외 선바 장제 동외 선바 연나 디기 안 최신을 마베 바베게 안 강투도디 샹리아 안 로버제야다 도시 투그레스 제투바나 디기 진비기 제보디 소남데 제가 마음바나 튕기야고 리그레스 지사 소마음바네 튕기야고 라야게 된다라 안 진디레스 진바 지사 소소의 튕기야고 래 지사다 소소게 샹리아 로버제바 샹이 강아세야다 동아세 로버제 로제네 강아세나 소소 튕기면나 샹 로제네 강아세 샹기 동아세 투야다 강아세 투야 말바 지사 소소 튕기면은 로버제제 강아세 투 지사 샹기 강아세야라야 소소리야 튕긴 거고 그래 소소게 냠는 제야다 최제 소소 여발에 소소 튕긴 야보면나 최제 고가프라도 말 제사 진 소소야 강아티고 제사 랑나 강아 마테바 샹기 동아세다 샹라 로제 투야라 맞아 튕긴 거고 그래 제사 디 튕긴 라야기 규디 가르래라나 대등아도 진비 냠는 제야들이스 제사 진바 바 진바 제야디 따야들이스 제사 진바 따야라야 소소 동외 선바데 야보면나 아니 세나여나 땅투 말해서 제가 동외 선바 장고 그래서 단 냠는 제가디 동외 선바데 바 장고 그래서 드송을 된다지래
To the extent we develop this mind of generosity, this wish to give in meditation, then out of meditation, where we have an opportunity to give to others, we will embrace that readily, without hesitation. To the extent that we can help, we will. Whether to help others materially, giving food to those who are hungry, or using our skills to help others, or sharing our education with others. We will help others in accordance with our capacity. Mindfulness, on the other hand, is a mind of poverty, a mind that's lack of need. And its ripening results in our future lives will be experienced as a life of poverty, of material poverty. Generosity being a mind of abundance, a mind of giving and sharing, has the ripening result that in future lives we'll have an abundance of material circumstances, combined with a generous attitude to continue serving and benefiting others. The key point that needs to be emphasized within the practice of generosity is that the goal is to develop our wisdom, our intelligence, and we need to always practice with our intelligence, including with generosity. So therefore, if one's trained well, has the urge to give, to share, and help ease the suffering of others, we need to do so realistically, with what we can realistically give. If we give more than we should, more than we can afford, we'll end up harming ourselves and regretting our generosity. That would be harmful. So we need to utilize our intelligence. Where we can help, do so with sincerity. Where we can't help but really want to, do so mentally. Have the sincere wish. When I have the skills or the material wares to share, I will do so. But in this instance, I cannot. So you have the wish to give, but with your intelligence, we work within the confines of what is possible. But the importance, though, of this meditation is that if one hasn't trained one's mind and developed the wish to give, one will not even notice opportunities. Or when they are so evident that one cannot ignore them, one will not take them. One will rather follow the excuses. Miserliness will express many reasons not to help. But if one's mind is trained, one will not only notice the many opportunities, but will actively seek them out and embrace them with joy, with a joyful attitude, help others.
lunga yusumyo shanla nyobeke shanla tsawa sawa chigime sibi lunga yusumyo gane shanla nyoba chigime sembe samla taya dire da di chigime sembe samla yana yando taya di samla di nganzulu ko here da di le churim songo se churim nyamne je ba si gore 진짜 디 독초 de karelane shanla nyoba lunga yusumyo gane shanla nyoba dirwa nyoba je ba dirwa 진짜 디 nganzule ra shi lunga yusumyo shanla nyona ane shanya kangate 동아게 강아대 디 견쟁 안으로 강아요. 진짜 라신이가 동아요. 유체거래. 진짜 샤알라 류가 유스미주는 샤알라 뇌버지게 체외 삼바유나 디 안으로 녀몽밖에 라신이가 동아요. 그래. 디 매바서야라 디 독초데 가래서는 류가 유스샤알라 뇌버지게 매선배 삼로디래다 디 송외 샘바 수rim스 디 송고거래 해제된 땅아 두시네 류가 유스미 관에 샬라 뇌비 자와서 샬라 뇌바서 자와긴 지메아 선배기다 빈당은 류이 관에 나와 관에 파레지나 나와 관에 샬라 치수시기메 나와 관에 샬라 준시기메 아니 나와 관에 아니 지 샬라 미 tum부여바디 미 tum바지 죽신자 참아지 지기메 에세야다 어두세 나 류이 관에 아니 신 요구마고야다 신이네 소주야라 소바다 아니 샬라 니도 다야 되니게 샬 뇌스 지기메 에세베 삼비토네 아니 군농한 바케지 샬라 뇌바 삼바 삼나다 두시기요마 지기메 에세베게다 두시네 레레네 삼다네 두시에 차자 dom네 셔츠데 나가지고 룽아 예수미 관에 샬리아 뇌비 삼 뇌바 싸우기는 지기메야 삼비 디 삼로데 야네 양도 야네까지 숙체 요베네 디기 도초디 샬라 뇌비게 자와데 윤주고레 샬라 뇌비 삼바 차와집에 삼로데 춘춘주고레 제자디 아절레 냠는 체리 디레서다
So of the six, the first was generosity, now the second, ethical restraint. Generosity was defined as the wish to give. That ethical restraint is the determination not to harm others in any way at all. The determination not to harm others through our physical activity, through our speech, or even our way of thinking. So this is then the definition of ethics. The opposite is to harm others, whether to harm them physically, through our way of speaking, or the way of thinking. The consequence of harmful behavior is of suffering for others right now, and accumulating the causes for ourselves to continue to suffer ever more in the future as well. And every attitude of wanting to harm others is an affliction. To attain liberation from samsara and enlightenment, the afflictions have to be eradicated. And they're eradicated through cultivating the contrary way of thinking. Here, it's ethics, ethical restraint. This term, ethical restraint, refers to restraining the mind from coming under the influence of the afflictions. It can also be expressed as guarding the mind or protecting the mind from coming under the influence of the afflictions. Because it's the arisal of the afflictions that lead to harm for oneself, and then the expression of that harm to others too. So therefore, like generosity, the training in ethics is primarily mental, but we also ensure we guard ourselves both physically and verbally. In the meditation, we go through what are called the 10 non-virtuous actions, reflecting on them, committing not to engage in them, not to kill, not to steal, not to engage in sexual misconduct. Those are 3 relating to the body. And to speech, not to tell lies, not to engage in harsh speech, not to divide others, and not to engage in idle or meaningless speech. And then in terms of mental attitudes, commit to guarding the mind from covetousness or desire or attachment. Secondly, harmful intent, the wish to harm, and wrong views. So these are 3 relating to physical behavior, 4 to verbal, and 3 again to mental. These we train in again and again mentally, so that in our daily life we can restrain our mind from coming under the influence of the afflictions that would otherwise lead us to engage in such behavior. So a key point to make here, but it's broadly applicable, is how meditation works. Training the mind works. What we're trying to do is habituate ourselves to wholesome ways of thinking and break our habituation to unwholesome ways of thinking. And we do this through meditating again and again on wholesome ways. And as a particular wholesome way of thinking grows, its contrary unwholesome way of thinking, its opposite unwholesome way of thinking, gets suppressed by the growing strength on this side. So you think of those old-fashioned scales, as one side grows, the other side proportionately weakens. So as we develop our ethics ever more, our ethical outlook ever more, our afflictions are restrained. As you develop generosity ever more, miserliness is reduced. So this is the meaning, or this is how a meditation or training one's mind works. We strengthen the virtuous side, and to that extent we develop our virtuous ways of thinking. The contrary, opposite afflictions are weakened and suppressed.
That's Denigi Churum the Bay Masaki Chimboshuri, and as you ended Tamje Gewi Java, Gewa Chazan Junhegi, Shiza Masona, Churim Soya de Ejere. It's not that Churim Soya de Lunga Yusum Shell and never check me, Sempigets, some not do Soya, Churim Soya, and the Gewa Milutovia Guya Dires. Lai go on to a Guya Dire, Halakiwa in a Churim Sungore, Miliki in a Churim Sungo, Chazanga Gewachima, that said a mire, Gewachima, Mijiki in some benda, that said the Lian Churim Sungo, Churim Sud Miki, Gudi Garasana, Lunga Yusmeshana never check me, some lodi Sungo or S. Dizadi Churim Miki Gure, Haki Gure, and D. Den and Tarbada Tamjakimbo Toy, Gewati Satu word. She's a dineza, Churim Suadi, and then as well Hakia, the Milkia, the Jinga, the Shea, and then Jugi Milirimboch Gachimbo said, D. Gudi Gashana that Gud Churim together. She's a Churim D. Lunga Yusum Yukone shall never check me, some lot Kaze, Shuk Chair, and Dizigi, and other. Milutovia Guya Chagora, Guya Chagora, and Delia, and Tarbada Tamjakimbo Gomato Guya, Deli Satu Gore. Surmi, I watch Sumato and Gavasala, and Chiget Tarbada Tamjakimbo Gomatoyada, and Dusine Galakabu. Surmi, I was on she knew Julia in a Delitin and what Surmi, I was on a she knew to Paul Mother. Surmi, I was on Madonna. In
the previous verse, the reference was made to this life we've attained, this precious human rebirth. To have achieved this life that we are living, this came from causes. The primary cause that was accumulated in a previous life that ripened into this rebirth was ethics. The ripening result of ethics is a good rebirth as a human or as a god. So here in this sequence of trainings, we are shifting our attention to focus on future lives, as well as the achievement of liberation and enlightenment. Therefore, to ensure that we attain a good rebirth in our future lives, we have to guard our mind, protect our ethics, so as to ensure that we create the causes, and because thereby we create the causes to be born in our future lives, again, as a human or as a god. A second key benefit that comes from being ethical, that cultivating ethical restraint, is it is the foundation of all qualities. So if you think of, any of the goals of the Dharma that one longs to give rise to, any of them, they have as the indispensable foundation ethics. Because ethical restraint restrains the mind from coming under the influence of the afflictions. The afflictions are what are contrary to all good qualities, every single one of them. Therefore, ethics is the foundation for all good qualities. For example, if one longs for concentration, calm abiding, a mind that is undistracted, cannot be achieved without ethics. Because a mind that is not ethical cannot be restrained sufficiently to gain concentration. Moreover, without good ethics, liberation and enlightenment are not possible, because ethics is defined by restraining the mind from coming under the influence of the afflictions, protecting the mind, guarding the mind from coming under the influence of the afflictions, which are what we strive to eradicate in order to achieve liberation and enlightenment. So therefore, ethics has these two great qualities of being the cause for good rebirth as a human or God, and for being the foundation for each and every good quality.
And that thing into Jehovah, do the Jehovah, Saint Yamin Jehovah says, Jimango Sonso, Jezadi did it down to Bene Jiggy. Sometimes they want to show her Shia line, Benetic to Sicilia, Chick line, the Negi, other than a Jiggy, just pie, Gasore, Combajato to say, I didn't come down into Shasha, the Pasha, and yet never upon the Wokuno de Lia, down to Jiggy. Janju sim sometime simja tamji and Sanje simja tamji dunga Jawu, the Caesar simja tamji dundai, and Sanje Gobamato, Tabin Sanje Goba Show, Simbi Kuna Samda. The niggas Toba Show, Simbi some of the Tuskaze down to the town. Then some gentlemen Sanjo Goba D in Zadangi, Lul, some gentlemen Sanjo Goba to be Chirdu, Sosugu, Loje, Gazeta Javatam, Jia, Yaconchul Piggy, Samba Samda. And then so you launch a case of the Chibatam, Semja Tamji, Semji Dungasia, Jan, Digitubia Chidungi, Shaya Tangi, Sambi, Tangina, Sabi, Odus in some of those, the naked Gazette, due to do in some town. Then, and the Gelia, and then the Luma, that do the Reno Sonje, and then a Sanjo of Mato about the Semja. The Luna Yusum you can shell a neighbor Jawas, Saugan, Jimia, Sambig, Duchi, the some Dutch, Duchi, some down, Kamakazi to the Ducomba, and the church said the Congo, the chair. Says that the Duchin, Duene, Comba in air, and the Ducerana, the Nishlokaze, Kamakazi to the Comiare, Nam Sem Sham, Shana Mato, Namia Shana Mata, take some Duchin, and Comia, the Nage Combine, and then want to get Lodia. New church to go. And the men big down to Pazoyagic, Pazo Jodida, Moderna, Joya, Dinigi, Jiggy, Jiggy, Jodica Bineda, some Diorba, Susugida, some Sanjo Kobato show, some big did and Danged, Luno Checkers of the Cheshala Tangi, some Lunga Isun, you can shall maybe Java Sagan, Chimia, somebody on the Gedi, Jene, Dinigi gets it down to the Tangedi, that do dealing in the J, said it, that did it, the Nigi, Marabache, Surim, the next some Mataje, Taya Maraje, Shison then as a Milikia, Milule, Gusayo, Mar, Chesanjawachima Milule, two Mare, Sachi. Is that Jawachima Milule, two Venom, Sedelia on the Yamlen, Chen Yamlen J, Jawachima Milule, Malaje, Dunroch given, Dendiliana, 최념내제 고급하게 말해. 그래서 세대래야 최념내제 마음바나 상조고바 마토교바도 념내제 와서 개와 치마야 념내제야 고급하래 된켜바지고 지난 하다 미된 켜바지 토보고 그래서 뒤에서 수름송고를 해서 당아도 내가 보다 념내제고를 제고를 세대 송고에 대지 송에 대 제디 디소리다 디네.
The meditation has been building up to us reprioritizing and looking at what we value, so as to apply ourselves to the Dharma in order to transform our minds from right now. So therefore I've taken a little divergence from the text, because the question will have arisen. So what is this training that I'm being encouraged to engage in? For example, at the end of verse 5, please, from now and by all means, achieve the very essence of this life's potential. So the question should have arisen, how to do so? So this is why I've covered these key points. So what I encourage you to do, we still have a little bit of time together, but you'll be home soon in the coming days, that if you can, engage in a daily meditation, perhaps first thing when you wake up, if your life circumstances allow that, or maybe later in the day. First, generate the motivation of bodhicitta, the determination to become a Buddha for the sake of all beings. And depending on your level of Dharma knowledge, you go through a variety of steps of varying depth, but with a recognition of the wish to be freed of all suffering and pain, and that this wish that we all have is shared by all. We generate the determination that I will do all that I can to destroy the afflictions and gain freedom so that I can help others. We'll strive to become a Buddha to help others. So that's very brief, the generation of bodhicitta. If you have greater Dharma knowledge and meditation, you'll put more into that. Thereafter, generating the determination to become a Buddha for the sake of others, one engages in these meditations. There were those 6 practices, and we've looked at now 2 of them. The first is the generosity, the wish to give. Developing our closeness and our connection and our understanding of our interconnected relationship with others. I want to help them. I want to ease their burden of suffering. Where I can benefit others, I will do so in whatever way I can, in accordance with my capacity. Develop that wish to give of oneself to others. And you combine it with ethical restraint. I want to help others. I will not harm others. I will restrain my mind so that I do not speak in a way that brings harm. I will restrain my mind so that I do not act in a way that brings harm. I will restrain my mind from the afflictions so that I can keep it on virtue, on wholesome minds, such as love, compassion, generosity. And that, very brief, is a short meditation. If you can do more than that, was maybe 2 minutes. If you can do this a little bit deeper, very nice. But if that's all you can do, it's a start. And do it every day. Conjoining that, even if it's just brief like that, it's a start. It will grow if you keep doing it every day. And especially if you follow the next bit of advice, is don't leave the meditation to just those few minutes. Repeat it again and again in the day. Because whilst our lives are incredibly busy, if we look, there are many quiet times of just a few minutes here and there. Many moments like this. Because a lot of the activities that consume our time are repetitive. You've done them all so many times that you can do them without mental engagement. So if, for example, when you're a new driver, you drove with a lot of attention. I couldn't ask a new driver to meditate while driving. But an experienced driver, you know how it is. You switch off. So rather, that time, just remind yourself, I will restrain my mind from the afflictions. I will not harm others. Wherever I can help others, I will do so. You just repeat the meditation, repeat that. And the feeling that you have been generating in the meditation session will arise in those few moments. Whether you're driving, whether you're waiting for the kettle to boil, whatever of the many mindless activities that we engage in because they are repetitive, mind yourself of what you meditated on. You can also remind yourself that this life is impermanent, it's going to end. And every time you think of the Dharma in this way, rejoice, generate joy. I'm using what's remaining of this life well. I'm thinking of the Dharma, I'm accumulating seeds for a good rebirth. Because I have to have another rebirth like this. If I fall into the lower realms, not only is the suffering intense, but my spiritual development ceases. So in order to eventually achieve liberation and enlightenment and be of great benefit to others, I need to create the causes to progress well from life to life with ever greater circumstances. So therefore, what I'm doing right now, in these few minutes here and there, is of great value. And rejoice, and thereby the determination grows to continue to do so repeatedly over a sustained period. And in this way, change will come.
Dadinma sabadela draw union draw be lusem jang Dachida time chevitse La Rawa meba Traguna nor Yenshi Soda Muchitals.
Moving to the 7th verse. If even your body and mind, close companions for so long, are separated by your cunning enemy, Yama, the Lord of Death, helpless again in this forced partition, how can your possessions, friends, loved ones, and so forth be of any aid? This verse then continues what we started with in the 5th verse, which is on impermanence.
La Rawa meba Tragwe na asur. Tangarazu Ludi Ami Kene Mashi Bardo Ngarazu Luda Semni de Kidina Yamdu Yobarvada, Yurin Tropi, Lu Sem Jasid. Ami Kene, Sondangazu Mashi Bardo, and Luda Semni de Be, Kidina Yamdu de Gorva, Chesa, Yurin Pun Tropi, Luda Semni Yam. Ina Trugo Zede, Inada, Ngarazu Trachida Sidu. Legi nyomo rawa meba so gayo do se da gawa da chida se de dise ora so on ga ba se ora le da nyomo rawa meba shi yo de jeza da chida se de chama na shin se chama be chame ge chewe se di ba bine chama lamna kar se ora se ne mini tumbu yo ba na 바라들 직 파셔지 직제 수주신 권이 tum부여버디 미tum버저 가가 차서 저한테 참아제 바로 와 참아 뒤로 디나시 자치다기 가르치고 왔으네 레 라와 매바 시여 소네 가요도 니기 가도 류다 셈이디 가체제고 그래서 참아 체비세 가가 지사 류다 셈이 아메기네 마시 봐도 배 냠도 뒤고 그랬대 자치다 디길레디 라메바 소온 가는데 시와디 레어도 디기 치요도 안데 류다 셈니디 가가지고 류디 대샤 안 셈디 봐주고 그래 가가지고 그래지래 그래서 이래다네 그런 나서 자치다 대카리 이놈이네 그런 숨마서 진짜 레다 녀모 라메바 시와디 세오래 시와디 세
Looking at the first 3 lines, if even your body and mind, close companions for so long, are separated by your cunning enemy, Yama, the Lord of Death, helpless again in this forced partition. This is the situation we all find ourselves in this life and each preceding life. We have been in this position every life. We are born, and our body and mind are inseparable. Throughout our life, our body and mind, whilst changing, are inseparable. Hence, they are close companions. But this will not last. Not only are they changing momentarily, but they will be torn apart. The body will be discarded, and the mind will continue. No matter how close these two companions are, this connection, this relationship, will end. And it will end in a way that, from our side, we are powerless to stop. We are powerless to have much impact on. And what will bring it to end it's expressed here poetically, Yama, or in English, the Lord of Death. What this means is what will separate these two close friends are our own karma that is contaminated due to having been accumulated by the afflictions. So therefore, our actual cunning enemy, the meaning of Yama, the Lord of Death, is our own contaminated karma and afflictions that cause the separation of our mind from this body. So I really need to add one word. So the, Yama and the Lord of Death means our contaminated karma and afflictions, and they are our actual enemy, which will cause our uncontrolled separation of body and mind, our uncontrolled death. So I just missed out that word, uncontrolled.
Denigi Shiyon to Kablang as a Lu Rawa Mebata, Sem the Luni Rama Tadu Gore, that don't know Tadu Gore, that don't know Carlos Morsene, and so Shidu Kabla, Lu de Bang as a Sem de Shine, Mashiba to Gedina to Chopor Jirete, Ina, Shidu Kabla, Supud Pumbo de Shasha, Sem Koron to Mother, Sem Pumbo de Yum to Kedu, I mean, to ask her, your mares. Dina, that Pumbo Kera Mena, nor da Ni. She saw much sa, said so Subudi Kedra Mena, so Gujela de Kedra Yamara, she do Kabla, and she Kazayana Shasha dress. Yen said so Punja da, Pama da, Yen and Karina, Deso Robotia Yamares. And she said that Sosugi, Givishin, Lama Loso, Givishin, Desuina, so round Lama de Ran, Zewada in the Yorina, Manzu Shidukala, and Disney Robotia, Marta, Garji Orson, Sosugi, Namshi, she would Jibu Dugores, Sosu Jibu Dreamato, Sosugi, Subudi Teayama, Sosu Gujala Karina Team, Sosugi Punyen, Yeda, Yenda, and Givishin, Suina, can't Kedra Shidukabla. Tis not that Sosu Jibu, Sosugi number share, some no same numbership called Jibu Dugore.
The verse concludes, how can your possessions, friends, loved ones, and so forth be of any aid? So at the time of death, that comes at a time and in a manner that we really have no control over. It's dictated by our karma, which was accumulated by our own afflictions. These close companions of body and mind become separated. We could really say that our body is our closest companion. It's accompanied us throughout this life, and yet it's discarded, and our mind solely continues to our next life. At that time, when we're lying on our deathbed, and we're passing from this life into the next, no matter what vast store of possessions, no matter how rare and valuable they are that surround us, they are of no help. Whether we are surrounded too by our loved ones, they too cannot accompany us or help us. And even our spiritual friend, our Lama, he also cannot accompany us on this journey. Our consciousness embarks alone. All that we've accumulated in this life, our possessions, our connections with others, friends and loved ones, are left behind.
Dine zada ane shidu kabla dine ki sosu ki ji yuni dobu subu tiya che doya yo mare ane jiki sosu ki gyuja la da nye nido da kare da kaya kaya me bare chizan dine zada anda shidu kabla kare kaya yo re lamna sosu ki gyawa kaze saa dine mashi ring dil ya gyawa kaze saa na gyawa di kaya doya yo re diba kaze saa diba di kaya doya yo da kaya doya dini di yo re si orda.
Our consciousness moving from this life into the next is accompanied by one thing though, and that's the imprints of the karma that we've accumulated. The store of virtue and the store of non-virtue, these are not discarded. These and these alone accompany us into our next life.
그래서는 나중에 대시 개화사세디 나중에 lunga 있으면 샬라네 지금에 셈비게 삼나데 삼로 나온다 삼미땅 거봐 제사디 삼로기 뉴버간 리거봐 삼로 코로나 리거봐 다 샬라 채와치 샬라 네버 제기 샬라 쇠기 샬라 강아티긴 셈비 삼로디 다베네 디디버와 채와 삼로 디야 삼로 나리거 제사디 삼로기 뉴버나 레버 레되버 인자 셈디 조디 디 뉴버디 라신 두거봐 제사 디네 인자 땅 하나 저기 채텔이야 다 돈다 닝보 가르치고 그러세네 제당 저기 기위 냠는 제당 체디기 변조사야 있는데 조 가르치고 그러시는 개와 주변의 기체레스 제가 체들이 변조하다 년유도 가져야나 시류갑라 소소 지부줘야마다 간 냠도 주고 말레스 제가 소소기 체들이 기위 자와 가지 주변에 시류갑라 디 개와디 소소 냠도 주고 그래스 제가 다 마음바나 디 개위기 대부디기 안 마음바 개와 침발이 미용을 해서 세델이야 규절라 가제 인연유도 개와 침발을 파요 마다 가서 고샤샤줘요 봐 세델이야 개와 가서 사바나 디 개와디 파 셈날 지 사반자 디 개로디 개와 침발이야 아니 지 디 핑거를 해서 대부디 미용을 해서 지난 디 인자당 안 저기 된다니 보라다 세대단 침반이게 개화사인데 개화도 조어진 사고레스 디 사바이나 아주 시디갑리아디 냠도 조어진 아주 마음바다 판도지 두고 배셔 땅 두고 그래스 자 세디게 되네게 개화 마사바제 세디게 아니지게 아주기 변절 규절하게 사다베네 세델레티 갈간좀 팽기레데 치말 조도 시디 차상 샤샤줘야마도 개줘야 매래 개줘야 매서 패매버 봐다 제가 미 변절 규칙을 여베나 롱도지 바조데 칼라사야 가야 마케바지 조셔베네 근데 저도도 사야 가야 메르바 가서 얘도 빼하고 여르데 나는 여르데 이 케요 말지자 근데 저도 어디 미 방고 칼라마 저도 받으나 미 되게 변조 첨보디 디데 칼라 저도 봐 이게 지금 지게 알아 봐다 가서 찍들에 미 가야 메르 찍데 나는 야고 여르데 마케바인자 아니 그 저도 그동안 영화에 지바 차기도 어디 나시에다 그 많이 체로야 매바래 제산데 체로야디 개위 잡아디까지 준다디 체로예요 그래서 디스고 당한테 개와 주게디 개체인바 개체게서
To explain how it is that the karmic imprints that we accumulate follow us from life to life is because remember when explaining generosity is the wish to give. So it's consciousness. Ethical restraint is the determination to restrain the mind from coming under the influence of the afflictions and thereby not harm others. That too is consciousness. So these two ethical minds are consciousness. And to the extent that they have been cultivated, their potency, their power, this accompanies consciousness. The consciousness or the mental continuum that travels from lifetime to lifetime. There are of this, this consciousness that is the virtuous karma. This naturally accompanies the mind from when it's accumulated throughout this life into future lives until it ripens. So too with non-virtuous karma. For example, the wish to harm or engaging in harsh speech is all motivated by mind. And therefore, that potency, that potential accompanies consciousness throughout this life and into future lives and remains with the mental continuum until it ripens. The purpose then of this reflection is to add to our determination to utilize what remains well of this life and not to continue to be overwhelmed by striving for the happiness of this one life. Through recognizing that no matter how wealthy we are, we can't take it with us. No matter how well we've nurtured our friendships and relationships with others, at our time of greatest need, other than holding our hand and feeling for us, they can't help us and they certainly can't accompany us. So this then helps give us the freedom to let go of our habitual patterns that cause us to try and accumulate ever more and engage in so many activities, to let go of those and rather accumulate the one thing that will go with us, our karma. Purify non-virtuous karma, cultivate virtuous karma. We can understand it, for example, if there are two people who are perhaps happen to be in a similar place. One is very wealthy, one is a beggar, but they're both very hungry. The wealthy person will have a fridge full of food, but at home, all that food at home cannot help them now, cannot satiate their hunger. It's away from them. So the beggar and the wealthy person are in the same position. What we need to recognize here is what really has value beyond this life, and there place our emphasis. To conclude therefore tonight, there are many important points, but the main ones, just to repeat in a sentence, is in your meditations to meditate on bodhicitta, generosity, and ethical restraint. These are the practices that we need to cultivate repeatedly over a sustained period. So thank you very much.